Good evening. Yes, I realized I have the wrong title and I just fixed that. Very sorry for everybody there. It's been one of those last minute days. I literally just got to where you see me right now like 3 minutes ago. It's really been a really busy week here. Hopefully everybody else is having busy weeks as well. Let me just make sure everybody can see and hear me. Again, I just literally ran last minute. Hope everybody is doing well. Hello to everyone in the house already. I do have some items here. It's not going to be a super long show. I do have some things going on this week, including this evening with a couple other folks that I have set up. So I won't be super long. Probably be done like 10 till quarter till 8. I know that's usually half of what I normally do. But again, I do have a lot of things going on this week. Now, the subject at hand, let's discuss this before we go anywhere else or anything else like that. I'm constantly sent images and things, mostly in Patreon, because that's where I answer everything is on my Patreon page. But people are always bringing up things. Is it viable to sell this? Is this worth listing? Is there any value in this? I hear that constantly. If I had time to answer emails to like the auction professor on here, I'd have hundreds of them a week in some weeks. And I do mean hundreds of them with people reaching out, talking about paper or collectibles in general. Now, I sell anything vintage. Just because you see paper doesn't mean that I don't sell a ton of other items too. Obviously, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know I do music and other things like that. Tomorrow's video, you will see something interesting that I sell routinely that makes us a lot of money. It's an item I pay less than 20 cents for, and I usually get at least 20 to 25 bucks a piece for this item. Video will be up tomorrow. It's already shot, already edited, the whole works. For those in Patreon as well, before we go straight into the topic here, video was up yesterday. I do have a couple items sold that I'll put up today as well. As I said, for those in Patreon, I've been posting now mostly daily. I'll be posting sold items with comments on price and anything like that I can think of to help you every day that I can, at least 3 or 4 days a week. In Patreon wise, I will have a live show on Sunday for you as well for those Patreons. I will post the link by Saturday morning. Tomorrow I've got another eye appointment, so tomorrow may be a little rough for me, as it usually is. But let's go into the topic here. Now, I've showed some things. If you had a chance to watch the preview, new feature eBay or YouTube has out, and I showed a few things. Now, I actually will talk about those items. They are things that I actually have in my possession. They are things that I bought to resell. These are just random items, just to give you some basic idea on overall, looking into something. Now, a lot of people will say they're having problems with their store, they're not selling, their sales dip here and there and things like that. A large chunk of the time, it's due, at least from what I see with a lot of the folks, to what you're listing. A lot of people still have an issue, and again, this isn't an insult or anything else like that. I had the exact same problems for a long time when I first started on knowing what something is worth, knowing if it's worth me listing. Before I go into specifics on these, I don't buy anything unless I think I can sell it. So right off the bat, if I don't think I can sell something out of that, I'm not going to purchase it. I know ahead of time before I jump on it and shell out the money whether it's worth my time or not. Now, I'm saying time here because, again, if you've got, say, this hand-carved wooden figure, and this is hand-carved, this is probably from the 20s or 30s. It's original. I think it's rosewood. And again, I've talked about in other videos the smell of things. You can smell the age on this. There's no doubt in my mind that this is from that era. I can tie it down. I have a male figure that matches this, which is typical with these Japanese hand-carved figures like this. Now, this was like $1 or less, if I'm not mistaken, at this point. I got a whole bunch of these. I probably got about 40 wooden statues of this type, not style necessarily, but these Japanese figures. They're fairly prevalent. Most of them aren't worth a whole bunch of money, though. Now, on an item like this, again, I have to realize how much it's going to take me in time to list anything that I got up. If, let's say, the profit margin on this item, it's only going to get me like a $15 profit, but I'm going to have to take a dozen pictures and write a whole bunch of detailed descriptions of the item, whatever the item is, it's probably not worth my time. Now, I've talked about time in general by value. If I'm listing something, I have to be able to list a said stated dollar amount of items per hour for it to be worth my time. Now, everybody has a different value on their time, so my time value is much different than anybody else's out there. I've got other things I do. My time is very valuable these days because I could be doing 100 other things if I'm not making money and piddling around wasting it on something like this. So, I mean, there's shortcuts and things like that. I did a video not too long ago on values on puzzles. We were talking about puzzles on a haul, I think it was. And I had a lot of people say, well, I would never spend the time. Why are you wasting time on that? Now, a lot of things I do, I can have done by somebody, repaired, all kinds of other things by somebody else. So if I don't have to personally put in the time or pay for it, it's a win-win for me. With the puzzle, I have family members who love doing puzzles, and they would buy them normally and only put them together once. So I can supply them with free puzzles, and if there's a couple pieces missing, they're fine with that. They don't own it, they don't have anything stake in it or anything else like that. And that goes for a lot of things that I sell. Now, I don't sell large electronics. There's time in the packing, there's time in the testing, there's the chance that it could get damaged in the shipping. There's pros and cons for everything that we sell. A statue, easy to ship, throws in a box, some bubble wrap, wrapped in plastic, and off it goes. I'd sell them as a pair. As a pair, they're around $35 to $40 for these. I've got two figures. Again, I should have just grabbed the other one, but with something like this, I'm going to have to take around 4 or 5 photos to adequately show all different sizes of both statues. They would be taken simultaneously together in the same shot, close up together, both bottoms at the same time, and whatever else I'm doing. And that goes with any type of pair or multiple items I get. I limit what I sell by the amount of time as well as the value-wise of that item. Straight off. So I want to be able to list, and I've said this many, many times, I want to be able to list at least $400+ per hour by whoever's listing. So we've got employees. So if an employee is listing something, they need to get at least $400 plus, usually $450 or higher, up per hour that they are listing. My time is more valuable than that, so I have to take that all into consideration. Those are the biggest factors I look at. If the item I'm planning on listing, now this has some interest. If this was a pair of jeans by Levi's that 400 other sellers got, and I'm going to make $10 profit at the very end of the day, if I'm lucky, I probably wouldn't mess with it. If the categories are flooded and there's no keywords that I can use to get ahead of everybody else, if there's no zoom-ins or any other aspect that I can use to draw more attention to the listing, again, my price would be higher that I need to list that item at. So if a piece of paper I can afford to list down to a $9.99 item, I may not be able to do that with something I have to spend more time to ship, photograph, measure, or anything else like that. It really comes down to the item specific itself. But again, before I ever purchase anything, I already know where my profit margin will lie, whether it be quick or long tail, whether I'll have to take a bunch of photos, whether it's going to cost me time into shipping them. Those are all factors, and far too many people just look at it and say, well, I can make 10 or 15 bucks off of that, whatever it may be. And that's not always the case, because by the time you weigh in with your photos and everything, you're making like $3 an hour in labor time. And I know you don't pay yourself probably if you're running this as a business and you're just starting off. In my case, we can take a payroll and the whole works myself. S-Corps, you can be paid as an employee. But at the end of the day, though, it's time. It's time into most of the items. If the item isn't worth hundreds of dollars, it comes down to time, investment in time. Am I going to waste a lot of time getting it out the door if it does sell, or even listing it to get it to sell in the first place? Now, interesting things. Now, this was at a sale, and I may have shown it. I've got 2 or 3 of these, honestly, right now. Most of them don't have this. This is an added piece. Now, what's interesting about this, it's hand-carved. What's also interesting is several people walked by it and didn't pick it up because it was $6. I think this one was the $6 one. I got one for $2 and one for $6. Now, what they missed is they didn't look at it close enough, because it's 800. It's 800 silver. It's even marked on the bottom as such. The fingernails are silver. It's hand-carved. It's a very desirable piece. I know that. I'm able to do that. I knew what this was before I purchased it because I have a couple other ones laying in house right now. These sell for $50 plus on any given day of the week. Is it worth a couple bucks to buy it? Yes. Is the profit margin there, say $60 or $6 into it at most, versus it could sell for 50 or $60? The profit margin's there because you're talking 4 or 5 photos max. You're talking literally about a minute to photograph this. I don't know what everybody else does, but I have a stand set up 24/7 just for small items. I've got another stand set up, another part for bigger items. With the camera always mounted and with the light, all I got to do is plug it in and flip a switch and everything runs and ready to go. So for me, I can take a photo of any item. I can get it instantly, walk in the door, and 2 minutes later already have it photoed and ready to go, that one item or whatever I want to do with it. So again, it comes down to time and my return on that time. I can sell $10 items all day long, obviously, and we do sell a lot of $10 items. But I'm able to list 40, 45 or better of those items in an hour. They're quick, they're easy. They go through my duplex scanner. You can scan like 400 images. That would be 200 postcards, let's say, front and back all at the same time in just a couple of minutes. And I'm not exaggerating. You set the DPI to 75 on a duplex scanner. I have an Epson DS510. Any model newer than that, most of those I've touched on or had other people that I've interacted very closely with use those. So I would recommend those. I don't recommend things I don't use, but that scanner, it's quick. In an hour, I can at least scan enough cards to actually list within that hour, and I can get 40, 45 or so up, and so can most people here at the same time. So that's my factor. Whatever I am listing, it has to be able to be viable. And I know I get people who say, well, you can't make money that way, you can't do this, you can't do that. If I list 40 items an hour, which is 100% doable. I've got videos of me showing me actually do that. I can, in 4 hours, I'm listing 160 items in 4 hours. And on an average, I sell at least 3 to 5%, probably closer to 5% most all of the time. So let's see, what would that be? That would be 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 items out of that 160 would sell the very first day right after I listed them. So that's 4 hours. So I equate how much value comes back from those 8 items, 9 items selling in that time frame. Usually it pays for all of the listings that they did in that time frame. It pays for their labor. It usually pays for all of the items that were listed all at once with the very first day, with the very first purchases. The rest of it staggers off from there. The second day I will sell a few items. The third day a few items. Every day I list, that same thing happens. So let's say day 1 I list 100 items, I sell 5 of those. Day 2 I am still selling part of that initial 100 I listed on day 1, so I've sold 3 now. It staggers off and goes down. So I'm listing new items on the second day as well, so I sell 5 new items and 3 from the day before. So now it's up to 8. Every day you do that, your sales goes up. I don't care what anybody else says, that's how it works for us. That's how it works for a lot of people. If you list constantly, some of those items will inevitably sell. The rest of them will be sitting in your store and increasing your overall store inventory. Inventory keeps going up. I've talked about our inventory. At this point, we got 1.2 million in the store I share with you, not counting any of the other sites, any of the other merchandise, nor any of the huge, massive amount of back stock that we have. Now, yesterday, I picked up 15,000 of the same types of items, which you'll see a discussion on tomorrow's video. Less than 20 cents. I think it was 0.1905 is what it came out to per item. That's less than 20 cents an item. And that was a good haul. Now, today, I got in almost 600 individually priceable items as well that should at least sell for $9.99 or higher. Bulk again. Now, if I'm bulking it, a lot of times, again, I'll go into a bunch of this more so on a video tomorrow, but bulking it wise, I don't have to sell them all. I only have to sell a small portion of anything I buy in bulk to get all my money back, to make a profit, and to have free merchandise. Every time I do that. Every time it works the same way. Every time. I make mistakes. Don't get me wrong. I rarely, and I'm not trying to say I'm special, I've just done this for 20 years more than 20 years, almost 26, 27 years. If you haven't figured out how to avoid all those mistakes after doing it as long as I have, you need to get out of the business, because if you keep doing anything long enough, you're going to know every in and out of that business. You're going to learn your areas, your collectibles, or whatever you may sell. Nobody starts off knowing it all. Nobody. Whether you know one single niche or two single niches or whatever the case may be, the more you know, the better you will do. The longer you do this, the better you will get, the more money you will make. Now, I'm going to say this, and somebody might, think you're just trying to brag or something, but this is easy to me now. I put in a lot of time, so I work very hard, but it's easy to... The listing's easy, the getting the merchandise is easy, the pricing's easy, all that stuff is easy now. But again, I could do it in my sleep because I've done it for, almost 26, 27 years. So again, if you don't get fast, you don't get good at something, there's something wrong going on there. If you've done it for long enough, whatever it is, you're going to get better at it. There's no other way around it. I don't care what anybody else says. That should be your goals, to get the best you can at doing your job. That's just the way it is. So if you're enjoying the conversation, please hit that thumbs up there. I got 164 people in house, 54 thumbs up. I don't know why people thumb down, but if they don't like good content, that's fine. They can go somewhere else. That is fine. Let me see what's up here. ETC host, how are you doing? Razzle a review. How much does a... I would have to see it. I can't tell you just from a comment like that. There's many different versions of many different things. Had to retract the first one due to a couple of errors. Not sure what that means. Hey Bob, how are you doing? Later done, starting early. Yeah, I've never used the intro videos before, but I think I'll throw one up just to give people an idea on the conversation, to hopefully be helpful to you. Let me see here. Susan H., I've watched all of your recorded videos. Great content. This is my first live video, though. Well, welcome. Hopefully you enjoy it. Usually I do a longer show, but again, I do have a lot of things going on. One more call out here for something coming up really quickly here. We are in the final stages of a picker's guide for a very specific area that will cover. It's going to cover a huge area. It's a really good. It's like a guidebook that I guarantee you that the majority of people who do vintage will be helpful to. It's going to be sold. I've got a lot of time invested into this. It's going to show images and be cross-referenced. I am like days away from finishing it. It's hundreds of pages. And it goes into extreme depth, and it'll help you to identify photos, movie film, slides, letterheads, letters, buttons, uniform pieces, china. I mean, a ton of stuff. It's going to help you to identify very easily, very readily. It also breaks them down by country of origin and things like that, too. It's something I have been working on for quite some time. I do have some other guidebooks coming out eventually. I've got one I've been working on for a while for records, a picker's guide that will give you prices you should pay and the whole works like that. The one that's coming out within the week or two is totally to the final stages. We're just proofreading it right now. It's going to be published by us. Most likely people will be able to get a PDF of the file. I don't have a final price, and I'm not going to go into the topic as of yet until it is published. It's copyrighted material and the whole works. But I promise you, this isn't going to be someone's picker's guide like you see on other channels. This is going to be like a guidebook you would buy in the store that identifies every aspect of what's in the guidebook itself. It's a very professional one. I spent a lot of time putting it together, cross-referencing it, so you can just go to the back of the book and use a couple letters to figure out what you're looking for, and then you can go to the page and you'll see several images giving you a positive identification on some things there. But it's going to cover a huge area of things. Now, the information that's in this guidebook is something that I personally use like 20 times a week. So it's not something I take lightly, and I'm invested into this. It's one of the niches that I've made a fortune in. It's one of the niches that I've shown a ton of items that I've sold, and it's not necessarily buttons, so don't think it's a button thing or anything else like that. But I promise you that a lot of people out there will find it extremely useful and way less expensive than any of the other books out there, if you can even find them. So anyway, we'll move on to some questions, and then I'm going to come back in and we're going to talk about some of the other items I showed in the little intro there as well. Let's see here, where are we at? Let's go on here. Yeah, Razla Review is saying he's seen some of the highlight videos. Old Man's Pick, how are you doing? Hang on, my chat just froze and then bopped way down. I'm sorry, my vision's not so good. I didn't think to blow it up because I was running so late today. So let me move the screen a little closer. Vintage Vagabonds, how are you doing? Good evening. Hey, Nancy, how's Nancy doing? Hopefully you are doing well. I got Mr. Lowe, Charles right below it. Hey, Charles. I did see one of your comments today. I don't get a chance to see many comments, but I did see you commented on one yesterday. True Rarities, welcome. Hey, Trina. I think you, maybe it wasn't you. I think you posted or said something, and I did respond to, if I'm not mistaken, on Patreon. Amazon Seller 99, how are you doing? Yeah, fourth quarter-wise, we've been already working on it for the last 6 weeks. 6 weeks ago, I started fourth quarter, slamming as much up as I can get. For us, I have a little different structure these days because most of my employees, well, I think all of our employees are college students now. Both my kids are in college full-time and the whole works, and all my employees are full-time. So I let them work anytime they could. I was literally talking to Don, Primetime Treasure Hunter, a few days ago, or maybe a week or so ago, and I had to get off. It was Thursday night, I'm sorry. We talked for a while after the show, as we usually do, and I had to let him go. My son was working till like 1 in the morning that night to list some stuff for us. So we've been, working pretty much around the clock and getting a lot of stuff up. My sales right now, and I'm not exaggerating, I swear this is the case, are higher than they were in fourth quarter right this very second. But again, I am slamming it. We are hitting fourth quarter stuff right now. I'm slamming up anything I can get, as much as I can get up, as quickly as I can get it up, as long as it's good stuff, as long as we're properly listing it as well. So if you're doing all those, you're hitting all the spots, you're going to do okay with fourth quarter. Again, don't list junk. Junk in, junk out. If you're going to list bad stuff, you're going to get bad results out of it, and you're not going to be enthused about watching your sales grow or anything else like that. These days, the stuff does come in fairly regularly for us, so I really can't complain much right now. Obviously, eBay, there's always issues, but anyway. Disgruntled Octopus, how are you doing? Jeff Loftus, good evening. BK Collector Shop, welcome. Hang on, let me try and get down to some more questions without it bopping all around. 1987 Ventures, Tracy, how are you doing? Well, thank you, BK Collector Shop. Javelin Flips, Annie, how are you doing? Hey, Daryl, Carolina Picks in the house. Hopefully you are doing well. I just saw that eBay has announced no USPS to Australia. I'm sure that has to do with the Delta variant from what I see. I think they'll just block that out. If that is the case, that option won't be available, I would imagine, at this point, or you'll get a notice. I haven't shipped anything to Australia probably in a couple of weeks, I think was the last thing I shipped to Australia. In all honesty, I do ship quite a few, so I do have other accounts, so I can always ship through UPS or what's the one I use? I don't remember which one we use the most for that, but I usually just use the post office, and I do have a secondary source too. I actually have a British company we use sometimes too. Hey, Mike Kretzer, how are you doing? Hopefully you are doing well too. Eric Hughes, thank you. Hopefully you're doing well also. Craven Cards and Comics, love everything vintage, same here. Decor and More, how are you doing? Hey, Ellen Dean, hopefully you're doing well also. Michael Sandborg from West Michigan. I've been all over Michigan. My father was actually born in Saginaw, Michigan. We have a cottage up in Lewiston, Michigan. I've traveled the entire state of Michigan all the way up to Upper Peninsula, and we used to go to Mackinac quite often, for anybody who knows that area. In Lewiston, our cottage is on East Twin Lake. You can look that up. It's a nice area. It's a log cabin built in like 1922. Still has the original map on the wall from when it was first built back then of the area, which is really neat. I haven't had the heart to take it off the wall. It just fits in so well. Are you a collector? How are you doing? How are you doing? Well, thank you very kindly. Yeah, somebody said I should put commercials in the live show. I probably won't do any in the live because of how YouTube does stuff on there, but yeah, Bob, you'll see. I'm gonna if you haven't checked in the last couple days, Bob, on Patreon, I've been posting a couple sold items every day of the week lately. And as I said before, I already answered everything on there, so there shouldn't be anything left on Patreon right now. And right after I end the show, I'm going to post 2 more sold items on Patreon for any Patreon to see. All the sold items are available to anybody on Patreon who's a Patreon paying member, from the lowest all the way up to the highest. So the videos are only for the highest level. I don't want to break something here, but anyway, I'm going to cut over to some items we'll talk about in just a second here. V3X14G, how are you doing as well? AJJ, we can hear more on labeling, listing tchotchke items without names or brands. Stuff without names or brands in general is not going to sell very well. If I am outsourcing and it's not branded, I usually don't mess with something, in all honesty. Here's an example. This is a little figure. Now, most people would just look at it and not think a whole bunch about it. If this wasn't marked the way it was, I wouldn't buy it. I just wouldn't buy it. It wouldn't be worth my time. Let's see if you can see how it's marked. I don't know how well. I'm going to have to switch screens for a second to see if you can see how it's marked. Now, I think everybody who knows what that mark is knows why I bought it now. Would you not agree? Anybody who knows what that mark is? One of the better marks on figures like this. Now, it's not worth a fortune. I think 25 to 35 bucks is what I should get for this in season. In fact, I think this one was 20 cents. I think you should be able to see the price. Only reason I bought it was 20 cents. It's going to take like 4 photos at the most. $20 return. Won't take any time. I'll ship it in a free eBay box. I've got free bubble wrap that I get in mass quantities lately from a manufacturer. Again, with shipping supplies, I go to the manufacturers. I don't piddle around anymore with Walmart or any other box place. I don't do any dumpster diving at all. It just wouldn't be practical. Again, comes back to my time. I could no way find 100 identical boxes a week in dumpster diving. It would take me the entire week to find what I need. And it's just so much more convenient to get them from a box manufacturer. Now, people say the cost and the amount of money. You spend a lot of money on supplies. I don't spend hardly anything on supplies to begin with, and at the end of the day, I don't spend a dime on them because I bill that my shipping covers all my costs. You know, I don't give a discount, and I get the discount. So the discount is the variance between the amount it actually costs me to mail something and the amount of box and like wrap it costs me to invest to mail it out. So in the end of the day, I bill for all shipping. I don't pay for any of the shipping myself. The buyer does. So none of that costs me a dime. That's the truth. That's literally what I do. Every box in here, and I've got right now probably around 700 boxes in my inventory for mailing stuff out. If I got to buy something in a pallet, I can get it in a pallet and get them down to like 40 cents on the dollar from what you would spend in a store to buy the exact same boxes. I have no problem doing that at all. The rest of the boxes I need, I usually use we've got a couple anchor stores, so I usually use it's $300 I get every 3 months from eBay in free boxes. Now, I get poly bags with that, or I get the 12-inch cubes off of eBay, and I cut those up as well, too. So, again, everything you do, it comes down to time. Everything you do comes down to value added for your business. Dumpster diving, again, there's nothing wrong with it. I've used enough used boxes, and sometimes when a good used box comes in, the big ones, when I get the big ones in, I save those too. I don't care if they're used in that aspect. I do turn them inside out, but sometimes you get some big items here, and I have to use bigger material, and it's just like one of those one oddball things. If I wrap a frame, that's usually a lot of the time the eBay boxes that come in with eBay boxes inside of them, because they're usually these massive boxes. Or sometimes if I get some free Home Depot boxes, those the big ones that I use for FBA, those will be used too. But there's a way to get those free. I'm not going to give out that secret, but I do get some things for free from some places of business. It's been a long time to get to that spot, but let's go back to this for just 1 second here. Now, the question was on without names and without stuff. Again, if this item had no name on it, it's $2 or $3, no matter what it is. A generic ceramic figure, no matter how cute it is, if it's just some random person, character, or something, it's nothing famous or well known, I'm gonna pass on it. If it's generic and it's newer, I'm probably gonna pass on it as well. I would never mess with generic clothing unless, say, it's a real nice leather jacket or something. I've got, I think at this point, like 60 vintage leather jackets in my personal collection. I do wear a lot of leather in the winter. I do love leather jackets. Maybe one day I'll throw a video together with my top 10 favorite leather jackets in my possession. I've got some really nice ones, honestly. But let's look at another item here, talking about no names or anything else like that. Now, unbranded stuff, stuff without any names or specifics, can be great if it's something vintage, if it's something early, if it's something collectible that has a collectability to it. But something that there is a brand version of and you've got the generic version, I wouldn't mess with unless it's some huge price thing. Now, this is probably junk to most people looking at this right now. Most people are going to look at this and go, well, what's this? It's even broken. It's even broken here, as you can see. Nothing fancy. It's dinged. It's dented. Now, what's important about this? Why would I even mess with this? This was like 50 cents somewhere. I've got a few similar ones. Reason being, this is from the 1700s. This is an 18th century little tiny pitcher of some sort. Without a doubt. It's been hand put together. Everything on here is done by hand. Again, this is not branded. There wouldn't be any brand back then. You might see a maker's mark from some metal worker back in 1750 or 60 when this was made. Chances are you wouldn't, though. Most of them don't, and even if it did at one point, it could have been worn off. So something like this, though, I might get 50 or 60 bucks for it. Again, 4 or 5 photos, less than 2 minutes to photo, probably a minute or so to list. It just depends on how quick your laptop PC can upload 4 or 5 images. That's all it comes down to, in all honesty. Title on this one takes me probably 10 seconds to throw together. Category-wise, it's going to be collectibles, metalware, and I'll probably pick something specific from there. Seconds for any aspect of this. So at the most, I'll probably have 5 minutes invested into listing this. And that's counting my photo or any other aspect I would. Postcard, different story, I'd have a minute or two for all of the time invested into listing it, at the very, very most. So again, it comes down to time, it comes down to value, it comes down to knowing what this is. Again, this was at a sale. I don't know how long ago. I've had this for a while. I've got a bin of these, honestly, of this type of thing. We'll grab a few once in a while and throw them up. Again, I got a lot of backstock. I've got more backstock than probably 10 businesses, 20 businesses put together, just because I get it in bulk usually, or I get it so cheap that I can sell 1 or 2 items and it sits here. And that's not a hoarder. There's a difference between backstock and hoarding. Everything I have is up for sale at some point. Everything, and if I had a staff of 10 people, I could get a whole bunch more up, so time is the biggest, most important factor in determining what you're going to sell. Now, I used to sell clothing. I think some folks would remember some of the clothing hauls from 3-4 years ago that I've done in the past. I don't do any clothing. Unless it's like a concert shirt from the 80s or something. Chances are I'd probably keep it if it was somebody I liked, but I don't sell much of it anymore. I don't need to. NOS shirts maybe if I've got a bunch of them, because I've done that recently, but for the most part, I just don't mess with it. It's not worth my time. I'm not saying it's a bad field, but I can't get good stuff around here. It just doesn't show up. Most of the thrift stores send them somewhere else. They've got high-end shops like Goodwill and things like that. Salvation Army around here does that. The other ones that don't do that, they're dumps. The thrift stores around here are mostly dumps. Once in a blue moon, you can get something good, but again, I don't shop that way. I target everything. I know what I'm buying. I know, I'm just going to one spot, picking up my purchase, and then I'm leaving. I already know what I got. Yesterday's 15,000 purchase. It was a 30-minute one-way drive, 30 minutes back, so I had an hour into picking up 15,000. I walked in the door, I estimated it by using a ruler to make sure that his count was correct, and off I went. A lot of the items I buy, I measure to figure out if they're being honest on their amounts. Like if I buy 5,078s or 5,045s or whatever the case may be, a 45 has an average thickness. You can measure it out on a ruler and just go to a sale, measure out how much is there. You don't even have to count them. I don't count anything anymore. Now, I don't even usually use a ruler. You can kind of guesstimate pretty darn close how many are in a specific 12-inch spot. If you've done it enough, you can just pretty much look and guesstimate and be pretty darn close. So, these are all steps that you have to take. I'll go over this one more time and I'll go back over to the comments. I'm going to stay on for just a few more minutes. And I do hate to run today, but it's been a really, I've been up since 5:20 or so this morning. So it's been a very productive day. I got a lot done, as I've been saying. So I don't let up. I'm not shy on working. It's fun. I enjoy it. So it's not like I'm working 14 hours. I'm just killing myself. I'm not killing myself. I enjoy it. I don't feel blown out or tired or burned out at all. I'm just hyped. I'm hyped about what's going on these days in business and life and everything else. And I got some medical issues and stuff, but still, the overall business structure of eBay and Amazon and Etsy and all what we do together here is finally going way in the direction we want it to. So anyway, let's go back to a few more questions here. Yeah, one more. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit that like button. We just bordered 203 in-house. I got 100 likes, which I always like to hit that 100 mark before we go. Thank you very kindly, Eric. Brandon, how are you doing? I think you sent something or posted something today on Patreon, if I'm not mistaken. Aloha as well. I like the new what's sold content on Patreon, easily daily bit size. Yeah, as I said, I will post 2 more images. They're already up. I won't tell you what they are. You'll see them in probably about by 8:10 because I've got to be with somebody at 8:20 or 8:25ish this evening still. So there's 2 new ones going up today, different types of items. I'll try to rotate them. Probably will start posting stuff from other platforms. Maybe you'll see some page or some hip and stuff like that too. But anyway, let me pop down and see what else we got. Hey, speaking of prime time, there's Dom right there. I have to hit him up and we'll have to set up another show too. Hope Dom's doing well. I caught the last little bit of his show last night. Dom's solo event last night. Always good to see either way. Let's see here. Marty, Jiminy Flip It. How are you doing, Marty? Let me pop down. BK Collector Shop. It has to be treated like the job you want. I call it a job sometimes, but I've been trying to stay away from that because I would honestly say this is more a way of life as opposed to a job. Even a career doesn't technically fit into what my mind is of what I do and what a lot of folks like me do. I do a lot of different things, and it's not just reselling, so to speak, but that's the majority of our business and stuff. It's a way of life. That's all I can tell you. Dom and I were talking actually, and it's an addiction almost. I'm addicted to what I do. It's thrilling. If your business is running well, and I'm not, again, this isn't dogging on anybody else, but if your business is running well, watching your bank account grow is a horrendous natural high, I would say, because when if I go back 10 years and look at what we had in the bank, oh my God, it was embarrassing. Sometimes we didn't have enough to make bills to something else came in, And I know everybody's probably been in that stage, or a lot of folks here. It's not like that anymore, The way things are going, we're increasing revenue on a month-by-month basis. It's up. That's why I said I'm up over last year fourth quarter, right now. So my thoughts on what's going to happen in fourth quarter would be that I'll probably be 25 or 35% up in fourth quarter versus year over last, which is a huge amount. But again, we've broken the million mark. We went to 1.2 million in inventory just on that one store. We're right at the 30,000 listings, and that's just the ones that you can see. Obviously, we have quantity buried where you can't tell how much quantity we have of items. We only list one at a time of many items these days. And in fact, we went back in and removed quantity off of many of our listings, so it only shows one at a time. And then we add one whenever we sell. So before I even pack it up, the minute it sells in the morning when we're going through the long list of sold items and stuff, I'll just change the quantity. And I know there's a lot of folks who don't do that. They don't use the zero out, or they don't get new items, or they don't have quantity. So it's a different story. Again, it depends on your business. But for us, I use the zero quantity. So when it runs out, when I sell the last of an item, it does not end. And I try to stress how important that option is, because if you've got replenishables, you don't lose your watchers, you don't lose those interested in that item. If you've got to sell similar because it ended because they bought the one item and you got to list another one, you're losing the people that were watching it. And if you sell it and there were watchers on there and you add another one, it shows a sense of urgency. Most people don't pay attention to quantity of the item. They just know you got one up for sale. There may be 5 and they don't even think about that. I've never had anybody question when we've done it that way either. Again, it's the same listing. So you're not losing anything. It's no extra work other than click edit, quantity 0, you change it to 1, and off you go. And then I change my hidden marker from, say, quantity 10 down to quantity 9. That's all I do. And that's again, it's a time factor as well. So I don't have to come back in and list the same item 20 different times. I don't have to sell similar. I'm changing a quantity, and that is about it. Quantity changing takes like 20 seconds. Edit, it opens up in like 3 seconds or less, usually a second or so. Slide down, change 0 to 1, and then save, and it's done. So again, that's another way. If you don't list that way, you just list them all at once, you're going to lose sales because they're going to see a quantity, and it's not going to be urgent that they buy the last one of anything. Nothing wrong with doing that. That's just a marketing ploy, advertising in my book. So anyway, let's pop on down. I'm going to have to cut it off in just about 5 more minutes or so here. Hang on, let me just slide down. When you say large electronics, what's the largest you would sell? I don't sell electronics in all honesty at all. I can't think of an electronic. I mean, a Walkman I sell. I've got a couple vintage Sony Walkmans, and I got one sitting here we were just playing with like an hour ago. Not playing with, but testing, I should say. That's about it. I mean, I've got a nice little grouping of projectors I could probably sell. I don't like messing with electronics at all, truthfully. I just don't buy them. It's no sense in me dealing with them when I can get 15,000 items that I can drop in a scanner and scan, or 600 items today that are easy, 2 quick photos on a stand that takes seconds to do a photo of both sides. It's a no-brainer. Why would I want to mess with it? Plus, I'm going small. I used to be big in clothing, and we had shelves just lined with clothing and stuff. And these days, in a bin of clothing, the size of a bin of clothing, I can store 15,000 or better items. Depending on the item, of course. Paper and postcards, I can store thousands in a small condensed area. So it allows me to grow my inventory quicker. It allows me to grow it easier. I don't have to worry about storage. It eliminated all my storage issues when I dumped off clothing. So again, there's factors and time with all of that. Clothing takes too much time for me. Clothing is usually not great around here. I might get lucky and get one good item here or there, and that's it. So I'm one-offing it. I can't, as a business with employees, I can't one-off anything. I have to feed the machine and keep being able to get bulk merchandise, because if one of my employees comes in and he can list 300 or 400 items in a 8-hour shift or whatever the shift ends up being, it would be more practical to do that as opposed to listing 20 shirts in that same time frame, or 20 pairs of odd pants, or designer this, or whatever the case may be. And value is there with what I sell. I can sell pieces of paper higher than what people sell jewelry and gold and all kinds of things for. I do it routinely. A lot of the items I sell, I'm getting the price of gold, weight in gold for those items, in all honesty. Patreon, those in Patreon. I posted 2 items that sold, and I think it was literally in the same day for $200 a piece, and I had pennies. I mean, maybe 4 or 5 cents in either one of those items. They were small. It was 2 images, quick list. I set the price, and off they went. One of them was up for like 20 hours. So it just depends on, of course, your knowledge, your experience. your interest in doing what you're doing too, I guess. If you're not into it, it's just money and drudgery and that, it's not going to be fun. Again, I'm hyped on what I do these days. I am totally hyped. I've seen so much interesting, I possess so many interesting, unique historical items that I'm just overwhelmed some days with that we have it, that we were able to acquire it and stuff like that. And again, if you feel like that, you're going to be very successful no matter where you're at right now. If you feel that connection with these items, with this type of business, with this lifestyle, you're going to do good. I can almost guarantee you, anybody I've ever met who feels like me, who has that same connection with the vintage, who loves doing this, who loves, picking up mass quantities, who loves researching and loves the history aspect of it as well, is going to do good. It's part of why me throwing together a guidebook, a couple 100-page guidebook, was fun. I liked that part. I like writing. Obviously, if you followed me, I write for Ina Steiner at E-Commerce Bites. Very lovely person. Her and her husband are very great people to deal with. I've been writing for her for almost a year now, so I like writing. And again, I get questions on guidebooks and all kinds of stuff. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do courses? I'm not a course person, in all honesty. I don't want to promise anybody anything or tell you you're going to do all this stuff. I give out as best information as I can. The guidebook is going to be incredibly useful. And I'm not saying that because I'm doing it, and I'm not saying that because I want you to buy it, but I promise anybody who's into collectibles is going to find it at least extremely useful, at least a couple times a month if you dig in like I do. I can't imagine anything else. So let's go down to a few more. I'm running on time, as I said, so not to cut everybody short, but shop smarter, not harder. BK Collector Shop, definitely. And I wish I could even source stuff that would be $400 a day. Laugh out loud. I live in a small town. I drive to other cities to source. I'm trying to learn new things locally, so hopefully one day. It takes time. Again, I took us 3 straight years of living on ramen noodles with the kids eating all the good stuff for us to even be able to not have to struggle from item to item to just pay a bill. But again, we were, that was how we paid our bills when I just got out of college and stuff. So it's going to take you time. The only difference between me and somebody else, well, there's a couple differences. One is I'm into this extremely well. I've been into antiques, collectibles, and collecting comics and toys since I was like 5. So it's a lifetime addiction, I guess you could say, for me. And I've spent the time. Everything comes down to time, and far too many people just look at the price. So I'll get $10 for this. Yeah, but if you're going to get $10 for something, you're going to have to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes getting it up, listing it. That $10 is a waste of your time. So again, when it comes down to, is it worth listing? If I'm only going to make $10 and it's going to cost me half of an hour, it's not worth my time. If it's like this is like a 2-minute ordeal to do something with, a different story. If it's like any of these other items, 4 or 5 images. I already know what it is. I already know the price. 4 or 5 images. I already know the price. I already got an idea on age and everything else in these. Once you know like a category or a niche or something, you go from there. Sometimes niche, how things are made, I should say, like a military medal might be made identical to a fraternal, a Boy Scout, a police, a fireman. So same companies made all that stuff. So whether it's a uniform, a shirt, a belt, a buckle, a postcard, a lot of those are made by the same companies, made by, identifying and showing the same items. So once you know this area or that area, you've got so much more you can expand on from there. You can branch out. If let's say I got a Carnes fireman helmet the other day, original leather one the other day. I've got postcards that show that. I've got the hat badges on it. I've got printed material. I've got poster stamps that show firemen in it. I've got Victorian trade cards that show firemen wearing those. So there's not just one item. There's plates that are from fire departments. There's flags. There's banners. There's the horn. There's just so many items that are tied to one specific niche. Most people are surprised. So you don't have to know. Once you know part of it, you can kind of extrapolate the answers on your own for the rest of those items because they all tie to the same general category, I guess you would say. So hopefully that's gives you some idea there. Let me just pop down just a hair more here. We'll get to one more. Yeah, New York City, I would imagine that's cutthroat. Hey, Duncan's in the house, too. Duncan's saying his buyers aren't able to pay. He's in Australia, so unfortunately, I don't know if that'll relate to here, but the Australian eBay support is U.S. support, if you didn't know that. And I've had several people tell me that's the case, too. But again, we've been selling a lot. I have no complaints in sales at all. But again, we're listing a lot. I'm not slacking off on anything. I'm not sourcing anything except direct. I spent, as I said, an hour to get 15,000 things. Today it was shipped to me in the mail from somebody I've been I know the person. I personally met him, so it's not like it's some random thing. But so I've got an hour into getting 15,600 individual listings worth of items if I wanted to run them that way. So that's my take. I didn't spend all day driving around. I didn't go to 50 thrift stores to find 5 items. I didn't go to a bunch of flea markets. I didn't go to a bunch of antique malls. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that. I used to do all of those things religiously, constantly, but I figured it out the better way to do it. I don't have to go any of those places. I don't drive around like that. I target everything. I can sit in my office and research a place to go, make some phone calls, do some emails out. It may take me a week to get in touch with somebody. It may take me 2 months to make the first initial in-person contact. But, I'm doing that all the time, so every day of the week I have potential to do the exact same thing. And I'm going straight to the source. I don't have to screw around. I don't have to guess if it's there. I don't have to worry about getting snaked up by another vendor or another reseller. I got the in loop, and I'm in. I'm done. I buy it, and I'm gone. That's it. If it's correct, the price is right, I'm done. I pick it up, load it in the van, and off I go. That's it. There's no other aspect of it that I have to worry about when stuff like that happens. So I'm going to have to cut it short, and I know I usually don't do this, but I do have some important things going on this evening. I've actually got a contract meeting via Skype later. So anyway, I do appreciate everybody coming on. I do apologize for it being a little shorter of a show today. If you're in Patreon, you get to see another live show at least an hour and a half on Sunday. Probably be 6 o'clock on Sunday as of right this minute. And those in Patreon, I will post a link to it on Saturday morning at the very latest. Again, check Patreon. I will have 2 more What Sold's up today. There'll be different items, as I said. There'll be things that you will have seen me sell in the past as well, too. But I do honestly and sincerely thank everybody for coming on tonight. Again, I do apologize for shortening it today, but if you need anything else for those in Patreon, hit me back up. I did respond to everybody already. For those here on YouTube, I have a new video, something I hauled, something I've talked about before, something I make a ton of money on. You are going to see it. I'm going to give you some examples showing you some of what we've sold to show you that this is a legitimate area, that it works. You've got ideas on where to get the items and the whole works in that video. This is going to be an eye-opener, I hope, for a bunch of people if you watch the video tomorrow. But I do honestly and sincerely thank you for your support. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and everybody should have a good evening, I hope.